Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well today. Today I want to talk about how South African politics have failed South Africans in general. The electoral system has been introduced to South Africa in 1994, and we had our first black democratically voted for president, Nelson Mandela. Then again Thabo Mbeki, and again Kgalema Motlanthe, Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka, Jacob Zuma, and now Ramaphosa. But all these years, after 30 years of the democratic dispensation, people are still suffering. People are still suffering, but unfortunately, the majority of the people in South Africa still have faith and hope in politics, in the so-called democratically elected politicians who don't give a damn about the suffering and the pain of poor people in South Africa. So I just want to share this with you. South African politics have failed South Africans. In fact, global politics have failed global citizens. But since I'm a South African, I will focus on South African politics. I will speak in the context of South African politics. In South Africa, we have many political parties in existence. Whenever a politician feels dissatisfied in a particular political party, all of a sudden they decide to open a new political party. But when you look into how these political parties that are newly founded are sustained financially, you discover that the people who are financially supporting these newly founded political parties are the same people who are controlling the means of South African economy, are the same people who have created segregation in South Africa, are the very same people who are perpetuating the scourge of racism in South Africa, are the very same people who are controlling the politicians who are heading or leading in the old political parties, or the political parties that were founded before the dispensation of democracy in South Africa. So there is a lot of confusion and perplexity going on in South Africa, and the people of South Africa are ignorant and they are blind to the fact that there is nothing politics can do to redeem the majority of the wretched, disenfranchised, and suffering people of South Africa. So my suggestion is, if you are young, wherever you are, acquaint yourself with technology. If you are young, or even if you are old, but if you have a flexible mind, please acquaint yourself with technology. Please identify an element, a technological element that could be used, or that you could use to build your life financially. Identify a technological element or factor, aspect, or component that you could use to build up your life financially, to maintain or sustain your life financially. Because the politics of South Africa are driven or are led by greedy people, are led by people who don't care about the needs of other human beings, who have voted for them, to get into those positions. So the South African politics do not understand the significance of politics and how politics could be used to uplift and empower the people of the nation, such as South Africa. For them, politics is all about deception, is all about building ploys, is all about hoax. Politics, the political intelligence in South Africa is identified by deceptive factors. For example, we have people who are highly regarded as the most intelligent people amongst our politicians. But when you look into the mental operations of such individuals, you realize that these are the people who are actually deceiving the people. These are the people who are actually using people's votes to enrich themselves. These are the people who are appealing to the masses But when you look into their real agenda, they are not about the masses. They are all about themselves, filling their pockets and their friends' pockets, family pockets. They are not about those poor masses who are convinced to go out and vote for certain political parties that eventually become leaders of society. So politics in South Africa do not work for South Africans. And the other factor to support the fact that politics in South Africa do not work. In South Africa, I think now we are a little over 62 million, approximately, in population. But the people who go and register during or before elections are a little over 27, between 22 and 27 million people. But the people who go to do the actual voting process, people who go and vote, are less than 10 million. Are less than 10 million. So that alone informs you that South African politics do not work. You know, and I don't understand why are we still holding on the system that doesn't work, a system that has failed, that has dismally, clearly failed the people of this nation, South Africa. You know, but we are still hanging on the electoral system to democratically or so-called democratically elect suitable leaders of our society. But the very same leaders are the ones who reject our people. So politics do not work in South Africa. Electoral system of electing or choosing leaders of South African society doesn't work. The system, the electoral system doesn't work. And in South Africa, there is no democracy. Because there are people who have never tasted the fruits of democracy. The majority of South Africans have never tasted the sweetness of democracy. But you very often hear those who are beneficiaries of political corruption saying, we are in the democratic dispensation. We are free. People are not free. The majority of South Africans are not free. The majority of South Africans are not free because they have no access to natural resources that were created underneath the surface of the South African soil. While the foreigners, their international corporations, are the ones that are pillaging the resources that are found underneath the surface of South African soil. And they take those resources to their own so-called first world countries for refinery or refining process. And they sell the refined products back to South Africa at a high price, at an exuberant price. Is that freedom? Is that democracy? When the indigenous people of a nation are still suffering, while the indigenous people of a nation have children who have no access to quality schools that produce quality education. They have no access to healthy food, organic food. They have no access to the wealth of the ocean, wealth of the forestry, wealth of the air, wealth of the forests, wealth of the land. People have no access. The indigenous people have no access. But you call that democracy and freedom. While you have kids who go to bed on empty stomachs. Unemployment rate is very high. As a result of that, people